Hello, everybody. Welcome to our chat about the modern menopause. Fran has reminded me that actually if you put your earphones on, you will have a better listening experience, but obviously you don't have to. So, my name is Rosie Green. I am a beauty journalist. I have been in the industry for almost 30 years, working for Elle and Red, and I'm now at You Magazine, which is the Mail on Sundays supplement, and also write for Hello Magazine. And I am thrilled to be here with some incredible experts on the menopause. I think we can all agree it's quite a challenging time, and these incredible women are going to help, talk about how to manage your symptoms and how to lead your best life during the menopause. So, I'm going to just very briefly introduce the panel. This is Miss Anne Henderson, incredible gynecologist and obstetrician with her own clinic, the Amara Clinic. This is Nikki Parry, who is an expert in functional medicine and also an incredible yoga teacher, deals in ancestral healing, which I need to hear about. Brilliant yoga teacher, just all around incredible. And at the end is Dr. Sabrina, and she is like the most impressive eye surgeon. And she was just telling us she's got a very brand new baby range for dealing with under eye circles. So I'm going to let them all introduce themselves more. We're going to do 10 minutes of chat with each of them, so I'm going to start with Anne, who I feel very lucky to talk to. So, Anne, could you tell me a bit about yourself first?
Absolutely, Rosie. Lovely to meet everybody again. And it's been a wonderful day, hasn't it? I was just here for work, but I've had a fantastic time dabbling in everything. So I'm a consultant gynecologist, as Rosie said, been a consultant for 25 years. And I'm also a British Menopause Society advanced specialist. And I think the clue's in the name there. So there's not many of us, there's only about 200 or so in the UK, and we are healthcare practitioners who have done a much higher level of education, training, and ongoing workload in menopause. So we're quite a special breed, I like to think. And as Rosie said, I run the Amara Clinic in Tunbridge Wells, which is a bespoke women's health clinic. We primarily deal with perimenopause, menopause and beyond, but we deal with a whole range of women's health issues, gynecology, vulval problems, and so on. So we're very women-centric.
Yes, and I can vouch for that, having seen Anne. Can you tell me, Anne, what are the most frequent symptoms that women come to you with?
So in the menopausal group, we try to simplify the clusters, because from top to toe, there are about 37 different menopausal symptoms. And if you try and deal with that in a consultation, it can be overwhelming. So we tend to break problems down into three groups. The first is physical. The second is emotional or psychological, and the third is cognitive. And they pretty much do what they say on the tin. So physical symptoms would be the classical vasomotor episodes, fatigue, lack of sleep, headaches, migraines, joint aches. Cognitive would be brain fog, short-term memory issues, concentration and focus. And the emotional issue, which is really the driving force behind the vast majority of our consultations, is heightened anxiety, often described as GAD or generalized anxiety disorder, low mood, not necessarily clinical depression, but low mood, irritability, aggression, lack of emotional control, a bit of disinhibition, which many women understandably worry about, especially in the workplace. So these are the groups, but within each of these groups there are subdivisions of severity, and you can imagine top to toe 37 different symptoms, so a vast number of symptoms that menopausal women can get.
Yeah, and could you tell us a bit about about HRT? I mean, it's bandied around, and we all know a bit about it. But could you give us the top line?
Well, I think we could do a whole day on that.
Yes.
So HRT is not the devil that it's often painted. I think that's what I would say. But to quote the phrase, the devil is in the detail. And as with all medicine, everything is not equal. So there's a huge range of different types of HRT, from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the type that, if you want to be on HRT, is body identical. Not to be confused with bioidentical or compounded hormones or anything that's unregulated, and certainly not to be confused with synthetic hormones. So body identicals are the gold standard nowadays, and they're all derived from plants. So estrogen is generally derived from soya, progesterone from yam. So there's a huge synergy with herbal medicines, adaptogens, phytocerms. So as I said, the devil's in the detail, and the gold standard is body identical, and I think that has been a game changer. The introduction of body identical estrogen, generally transdermal, and body identical progesterone, which is incredibly safe in terms of things like thrombosis, high blood pressure, breast cancer. So I think if we're going down that route, HRT is pretty much on offer for everyone if it's appropriate, and I would be the first to say that it's not for everyone, but for some women it can be life-changing.
And could you just clarify that that's the body identical
That's
you can
correct.
get from your GP? That's not something you have to go off to
Absolutely.
some deepest, darkest clinic and pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
So the only body identical hormone that is still not fully licensed at the moment is testosterone. There's a lot of background to that, and I think in the next few years testosterone will become fully licensed and thus widely available. But it's certainly true to say that all the transdermal forms of estrogen and the body identical progesterone are available through the NHS. There are supply shortages from time to time, but the key is not just the products themselves, it's how they're administered. It's the titration of the dose, getting a product that suits a particular person's lifestyle and their needs. So everything isn't equal, and the problem that we're seeing is a huge number of referrals for what I would describe as cookie cutter HRT. So in simple terms, that means women who are just given a generic formula, here's a bit of gel, here's some progesterone, off you go. And for most women, that will not work. It might work short term, but long term, there has to be titration and monitoring and surveillance, as you would with any endocrine condition, whether it's diabetes or thyroid. And I think that's where, sadly, much of the treatment that we see falls down. The products themselves are generally amazing, but it's how you use them that is absolutely key.
And I read your book from cover to cover. Anne's written a brilliant book. And could you talk a bit about the lifestyle changes, I mean, that can make a difference, that help you manage the menopause?
Yes, so Rosie's referring to Natural Menopause, which was a book I compiled a few years ago, just as we came out of lockdown. And it very much supports the ethos that we have in clinic. We've got 5 pillars of healthcare. HRT is one of them, but as I said, it's not the be-all and end-all. And we are fascinated by complementary medicine. I work very closely with highly experienced medical herbalists. We're very fortunate that we have a couple in Kent who are amazing, and they actually collaborated with the book. And that's something that I've done for 20 or 30 years, long before it was sort of trendy. We look at fitness, we look at mental well-being, and we're about to start working with an amazing CBT specialist who will be providing menopause support, sleep support in clinic. And those of you who may be up to speed with the NICE guidance will know that the NICE guidance for menopause has focused on CBT in the most recent version, nutrition as well. So we like our patients to look at the whole gamut of health, and even patients on HRT, unless they're actually focused on everything else, they are not going to get the best out of the experience.
Amazing, thank you. And lastly, could you tell me a bit about, what you see as exciting coming up? What are you looking at? What are you doing that you think is going to be groundbreaking?
Well, one of the key areas of interest is the use of radio frequency in other parts of the body than the face. I mean, many of you will have heard of treatments, radio frequency facial treatments. And we are about to start offering the InMode Empower vaginal range of treatments, which I am fascinated by, because the same principle that applies to collagen and elastin rejuvenation in the face and the upper parts of the body also applies to the genitals area, the vulva, vagina, and there are amazing probes that the company have devised so they can be used very safely and very effectively in those hard-to-reach areas. And there is a version of Morpheus for the vagina called the 8V. And Rosie and I were laughing earlier.
That sounds a bit painful.
I envisage everybody sort of clenching in their seats at the thought of 3mm needles being inserted vaginally. But actually, the vagina is a relatively non-sensitive area for treatments like that. It's surprisingly tolerable, and the results are amazing. I mean, we've got biopsies showing histological changes. It's even now being used for dermatological conditions like lichen sclerosis, which is, as any gynecologist or dermatologist will know, is a nightmare to treat. The relapse rates are phenomenal. Steroids cause problems. So as a gynecologist, that side of my brain is really keen to get this treatment rolled out to our patients for pelvic floor function, bladder function, vaginal health, you name it. I think that's the next way that healthcare will be going.
So interesting. Oh, well, thank you very much. I can sit for another half an hour, but sadly we don't have it. So I'm going to move on to Nikki over there. So Nikki, could you just give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do?
Thank you, Rosie. My name is Nikki Parry, and I'm based in Sussex and at my own clinic, and then also the Lanzerhof in London in Mayfair. My background is in medical science, so I started my life as a toxicologist, working in research, testing the efficacy and safety of medicines, and then went on to the marketing of medicines, and I did that for 27 years. And during that time, I retrained in nutritional therapy and then functional medicine. And I'm a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, and I'm a craniosacral therapist, so I work with lots of mummies and babies as well.
Amazing. So could you tell us a bit about functional medicine, what it is?
Yeah, sure. So functional medicine is a very patient-centric approach. It's based on science. And it looks at the functions of the body, so the 7 main functions of the body, and it looks at the root causes of conditions. So in allopathic medicine, we look at the symptoms and we treat symptomatically. In functional medicine, we very much look at the root causes and what's actually causing the symptoms to come about. So it's very different.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And how can that help with the symptoms of menopause? The hot flushes, the brain fog, the joint pain. We could go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we do a very in-depth medical history taking when we sit with a client, and then it goes from in utero to present time. So we literally take the whole history. And then we look at what the client is presenting with, and then we look at what could be the cause. So, for example, brain fog. We know that there are nutrients that are specific nutrients that are required for cognitive function. So we would look at what are the mineral nutrient levels in the body. So we test that, and we look to see if there's any toxicity, and we also look to see what's causing the inflammation in the level of the head. Also with things like joint pain, that sort of thing, again, it's an inflammatory response. So we look to see what is causing that inflammatory response. Is it something in the gut? So is there a dysbiosis in the gut? Are there extra inflammatory markers that are then going to the site of, let's say, elbows or knees? We get what I call my menopausal knees. And, what's causing that inflammation in the knees? So we treat the root cause and find out what it is, and then we can actually support the knees.
So how does that... Well, I think you've explained how it differs from a traditional medical approach, but I was wondering, is there a positive spin you could put on the menopause? Can you use any of the symptoms to your advantage, or is this a time where you see... Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for all of us women, this is a natural progression in life. We are all going to go through the menopause, like we all go through puberty, right? So this is a time, I think, for us to put a line in the sand and say, okay, how can I be the best version of myself? How can I be the healthiest? And therefore, how does this have longevity in my life? So from a more, let's say, energetic, mystical standpoint, we talk about the magic of the Maga. And the Maga is the time of menopause. So we have early on, when we're small girls, we have that time coming up through childhood, and we come up to our puberty. So that's like our springtime. And then we come into our summertime, which is the time where we might get pregnant, or we don't just birth a child, we might birth ideas and creations in our life. And then we come into that lovely late summertime and autumnal time, which is the time of the Maga. It's our menopausal time. And we go through that beautiful time, and it sets us up for what we call sagescence, which is that time of us being the wise woman, the sage. So,
what a lovely idea.
Yeah.
That's filled me with joy.
Yeah.
And could you tell me, what's your take on HRT? Do you work alongside it, or are you... are there anxieties that you have about it, or what's your take on it?
So I think it's very much part of the picture. I worked in medicine for many, many years from a pharmaceutical standpoint as a scientist. So I think that HRT is very much part of what needs to be included in the menopause. For some women, it needs to be patient-centric. So a woman, for example, could take HRT and it might not work for her. So she might need to go back to her GP or her specialist and have the dose altered. But then at the same time, like Anne was saying, that we really need to support a woman with her lifestyle. What diet is she eating? Is that diet specifically for her? For her, is she experiencing IBS symptoms? Is she experiencing hot flushes? Is she experiencing, maybe a thyroid issue? And so we need to be really specific, and we uncover that with our testing, and then we can be really precise. The same with exercise. When we do one specific test for most patients going through the menopause, which is called the Dutch test. Okay. And it's a dry urine test. And it measures all of your progesterone levels and their 2 metabolites, your estrogen levels and their 5 metabolites, plus your cortisol, your melatonin for sleep, and then a lot of your organic acids, which shows how you're detoxifying and how your neuronal pathways are working. It's the most amazing test. So from there, we can really discover, for example, one of the estrogen metabolites. If it's very high, it shows me that woman might get endometriosis or PCOS. Okay. If it's very low, then it might show me that woman might get osteoporosis. So then we can be very specific with our lifestyle protocol and say, right, this lady really needs to have support with her bone health, but in addition, we need to have workouts with, like using her body weight or with weights, so that we can get some really nice, bone strength going. So it's really specific for each patient.
Well, that sounds great. And sort of generally, I know you talk about it being very specific for each patient, but are there things that women can do that you see big results from that all women should do at this time?
Yeah,
do you think?
I think all women should have a look at what toxicity is in my environment. You know, what products am I using at home, my household products? What am I putting on my face, on my hair? What am I wearing on my skin? Am I using, you know, synthetic things on my skin, or am I using like organic cottons, that sort of thing? So that's, I'd say toxicity is number one. It's a really, really big one. What is the diet? And again, what's the toxicity coming through the diet? You know, what's the quality of my water? What's the quality of my food? Am I eating organic? I know organic food is extremely expensive, but can I eat organic food for the things that I'm eating the whole of? So, for example, if I'm eating lettuce and if I'm eating broccoli, then go organic. If you're eating something that's got a shell on it, like a nut or a satsuma, then it doesn't have to be organic, but just, you know, things like that. Always having a stress management program, so maybe starting to meditate. The MBSR is really, really good. Mind-based stress reduction course is fantastic. Maybe starting yoga is a really good thing. And then community. I think community is so important for this time of our lives, getting together with other women, and being in community and talking about this. You know, in the past we didn't really talk about this. It's time to get it out there and chat. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I wanted to ask you what new exciting developments you have, but first I would like to know what ancestral healing is.
Okay. So ancestral healing it comes from the work that I do as a cranial sacral therapist, and cranial comes from osteopathy. The difference is that in osteopathy, an osteopath might manipulate the spine. They might give you a little click and a clack. Cranial sacral therapists don't do that. We very much feel into the life force of the body. So we're turning healthcare on its head. We're not looking at what's wrong with the body. We're looking we're tuning into the health of the body. The ancestral part is we often have a lot of what we call intergenerational trauma that's passed down through the lineage. So, for example, the majority of us here, if we're Europeans, our grandparents would have lived through the Second World War. It was extremely traumatic. And we take that on board. We know from genetics that we actually take on board the stresses from our previous ancestors. So intergenerational trauma and ancestral healing really supports my clients' ancestors, and therefore it supports what symptomatically they are presenting with on the table.
So interesting. And so what's new? What's next for you?
I'm really into, as a scientist with my scientific hat on, I'm into what's called nutrigenomics. And it's in the title, so nutri being nutrition and genomics, genetics. It's all about how we, for example, absorb vitamin A, or how we absorb vitamin D or collagen or vitamin C. We can slap all these beautiful creams on our bodies and we can eat all of this amazing food, but how is our body genetically able to absorb that and to carry it and to use it? And I think that's where science is going. It's really
so interesting. Thank you so much. And now we have Dr. Sabrina Shah Desai. Sorry, I realised I just called you Dr. Sabrina earlier. Okay. So it's like Oprah, you've only got one name. And so could you tell me a bit about yourself and what you do?
Of course. Good evening, everyone. So I'm an aesthetic practitioner, an ophthalmologist, which is an eye surgeon, and an oculoplastic surgeon. So I do plastic reconstructive surgery around the eyes, and I rejuvenate everything above the neck. That's what I do. But I want to share with this group, because we're in this menopause panel, that I didn't realize until I hit my menopause how it impacts your life. So I'll be 58 this year, and about 10 years ago I was perimenopausal, and I quit the NHS because I didn't understand the emotional bits that Anna was talking about. I went to my GP. He just wanted to give me antidepressants. And the NHS is stressful at any point. I think, life catches up with you. And the statistics are quite scary. 1 in 4 women contemplate leaving their professional careers in their menopause. And I left the NHS then, but luckily for me, there was life after menopause, and I have 2 fantastic clinics on Harley Street, and I also have a skincare brand. So It is good. Menopause is good, but it is life-changing.
Yeah, and it's so good that we can talk about it more now. I think even in the last 10 years, it's a big change. So what aesthetic concerns do menopausal women typically come to you with?
So typically what happens is it starts in the perimenopause, and there's a change in the skin barrier function. And you find that your skin is it can either get very oily, you can have hormonal breakouts, and then you can get very dry. So the barrier function on the skin is lost. The pH of your skin becomes more alkaline. Around the eyes, there are two typical changes you see. You get more lines and wrinkles. So you suddenly start noticing an accelerated changing around the eye area. And because of the progesterone dip, and you're struggling with your sleep, so although your dark circles are not getting worse, and there's a paper that shows that they actually objectively don't get worse, subjectively your assessment of them is that you get up thinking your dark circles are really bad, but it has a significant adverse effect on skin and skin aging. So because the eyelid skin is the thinnest skin, one of the thinnest skins of the human body, you've got the perioral area, you've got the neck, the décolletage, the back of your hands. This skin ages disproportionately to your cheek skin, which is nice and thick and has subcutaneous tissue. So you really see this. And this is what my patients see. They come and they tell me they really don't like how their eye is aging, and this is the prime time when they're seeking cosmetic surgery or reconstructive surgery around their eyes.
And you're a specialist in that eye area. What are the main things that you can do to help people?
So really, again, as I said, it should start with education. I think that, we're having a dialogue about menopause now. We should be having that conversation with our daughters when they learn about puberty, with our sons. And so non-invasive treatments and how to maintain your collagen, elastin should be discussed in your 20s and 30s. And for this, you've got LED, red light and infrared. You don't have to have everything that's invasive. You just have good skincare. Doesn't have to be medical grade skincare, but good skincare with actives, and so that you're looking after your skin. SPF is key. Inside, outside approach. So there is a huge skin-gut axis, and that changes. So your gut bacteria, we now know, change in the menopause. They start resembling male bacteria of the gut. And so this is hormonally driven. So that women understand that this is going to happen to them, it's inevitable. We also see a lot of women with premature menopause. So it happens to them in their late 30s and early 40s, and they're not prepared. And the skin changes and the aging changes you see around the face, and the laxity of tissue, the jowling, can come on quite dramatically and can be a real emotional roller coaster. So understanding that, looking after your skin, understanding nutritionally how you need to manage your diet, and how you can go for regular facials, LED, skincare, and then just microneedling, simple microneedling, particularly around the eye area. We have non-invasive radiofrequency treatments. So, you don't have to go for surgery. Just come and have some skin tightening. So it's not just your vagina that's getting tightened, but also the skin around the eye and the face. We have ultrasound, amazing, no downtime, single treatments. And having these treatments every 2 years, so investing in your skin is the biggest thing that we should be teaching women who are in their 20s and 30s, because this is going to come to you, and you're banking your collagen so that when you get to the menopause, it's not that bad, and that you're prepared for it and you know what to do.
That's very interesting. And in terms of the surgery, what sort of surgery do you do? What's the...
So I do blepharoplasty is one of the biggest things that women are asking me for, because one of the things that happens is your skin loses its elasticity. So it just sags and becomes lax. You get a lot of forehead wrinkles, a lot of forehead laxity. So the brows droop, the upper lid skin droops, you get eye bags, lines and wrinkles around the eye. So an upper lid blepharoplasty, a lower lid blepharoplasty is one of the commonest, most popular treatments that menopausal women suddenly come and ask for. And again, the evidence on this is so strong. So here's the shocking truth. Men age at twice the pace of women, women age at twice the pace of men all through their lives. And in their 5th decade, this is 3 times the pace.
Okay.
So, you know, this is where they're coming and seeing us. But I also want to explain that you have to be cautious. If you have surgery around the menopause and you haven't, you know, you're not on HRT or you're not slowing down, the first 3 to 5 years of the menopause is really accelerated aging. And if you choose to have a cosmetic procedure at that time, your longevity of results may not last. And so women really need to be aware of this, because you can have weight gain, you can have accelerated weight loss, and your skin aging is accelerated, so your longevity from results is going to not be as good, particularly the first 3 to 5 years after the menopause.
Well, that's so interesting. And just for people who don't know, the blepharoplasty, that will mean that your lids are not drooping so much.
Exactly.
And does it also, can you also help with the bags? With the,
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
So it's the upper lids, so loose skin, eye bags, puffy eyes, wrinkles, and this is exactly what we suddenly see. So it's an overnight change.
Yes, and it's one of the most popular procedures. It's one of the most ones to get biggest
Yeah.
return on investment, as people say.
And there's a real emotional need in this. You know, a lot of people say it's vanity, and I don't think it's about vanity.
Yeah.
I think women need to embrace this and understand this is about equality, because they are aging at a faster pace than men because of the hormonal decline. But also there's a loss of identity. So there's a huge loss of identity when you suddenly wake up one morning and you cannot recognize yourself because you've aged disproportionately. And I think that we need to be kinder to ourselves and to women who are going through this process, and not label them as just being vain.
And can I just ask, with the dark circles, and I know that this is your area, what ingredients do you think, skincare ingredients, can work on those?
Okay, so that scientifically you need to look at the pathway that causes under-eye dark circles. And the first thing is, people think that under-eye dark circles is only hyperpigmentation. That means the skin is darker. And that's true for ethnic dark circles. And your skin will become darker as you get older. That's a scientific fact, but it's not all hyperpigmentation. Your skin loses its thickness, and so you get a darkness because the skin is thin and it just sinks into the eye socket. You lose volume, so you lose the fat pads. You lose bone volume, so you've got structural volume loss. And then when you get eye bags, the eye bags cause a shadow that can cause a dark circle. And when you don't have tight skin, that skin that is wrinkly doesn't reflect light well, so you have darkness. So you can see that dark circles is an umbrella term. So to address this, you first need to improve skin quality. And of course, you've got to be careful with retinol under the eye, because of the skin barrier function shift, sometimes retinol can really irritate the under eye. So retinol is safer. You have Bacchol, you have other ingredients that can improve the quality of skin. Lasering, microneedling, as I said, can improve that, and energy-based treatments. In terms of actives, for the pigmentation, we want to hit the pathway so that you don't create more pigment. So these are tranexamic acid, arbutin. These are really good. Niacinamide, vitamin C for the pigment that's already been created. And remember, don't forget your SPF. A lot of people don't put SPF under their eyes, because obviously when SPF hits your waterline of the eyelid, so that means if you've put it too close to your eyelashes, it'll sting your eyes and your eyes are going to water. So people avoid that. But you've just got to pad it around your eye socket rim and avoid taking it up to the eyelashes. You get a spread of the active ingredients. So that's just your basic care.
Thank you. And the last question I just want to ask is, is there anything that's exciting you that you're thinking in terms of, skincare for menopause? Well, not skincare, anything, machines. What are you thinking?
So there's so many
menopausal
exciting.
Skin?
I think that the home care function and how we're moving medical clinic-based treatments to home are very, very exciting for me. I look at the device space as getting this out to more people. So not just getting people to come in. I think the way we assess the under eye is going to change. I'm very into AI and technology. I love that. And I think that we're going to be able to take that assessment to the consumer so that you're sitting at home and you're going to be able to access expert assessment of the under eye and then customize what you apply to the under eye, just as you're going to customize your blood test or your urine test to know what you're deficient in, what gut microbiome you need to replace, what hormone you need to replace. And I think that's where we're going to be in 5 to 6 years' time. So that's what excites me.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. That has been an incredible discussion with some incredible women. So thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the experts.